Turn next tonight to this new winter storm and the brutal cold. 100 million Americans across 25 states now on alert tonight.
Tonight, icy wrecks all over the heartland as a massive winter storm slams the country.
At least 10 people died, 9 of them in Kentucky, which is now under a disaster declaration.
This is one of the most serious weather events we've dealt with in at least a decade.
Another brutal round of winter weather tonight sweeping across the country. As the Arctic blast expands, it will plunge much of the country into bone-chilling cold, with parts of the Midwest bracing for as much as a foot of snow.
Hey everyone, Joe here with the Idaho Prepper channel, and in today's video, I'm going to be showing you guys some of the gear that I've stocked up on to better prepare myself and my family for these extreme winter weather conditions that are headed our way. Plus, I'm going to show you how you can set up your very own winter weather survival kit. So stay tuned, this should be a good one. I just realized as I was putting together my winter weather survival kit that I was missing a few things. So we need to get to the store and replace those missing items. And it just started snowing right as I was getting ready to leave. So good time, not so good time to put this kit together. But either way, let's get going before the real heavy stuff starts coming down. And we're back. So I apologize for that brief intermission there. Hopefully you guys enjoyed that. I tried to make it as entertaining as possible, but lots to get into here as usual. So I'm not going to waste a lot of time dilly-dallying around. We're going to get straight into it. So the first thing that you're going to need to do if you're putting together any type of winter weather survival kit is create a checklist. So for those of you who are familiar with my channel, you know that I am a stickler when it comes to organization, and organization for me always starts with creating a checklist. So get yourself a pad of paper and a pen and just start writing down every item that you could think of that would pertain to your own personal needs during a winter weather situation and along with your own personal environment. Once you do that, I highly suggest going on the internet and just typing in winter weather checklist, and whatever checklists come up, just let those checklists kind of influence your list. They're always going to have items that you will have forgotten about. Now, the other way that I like to create my lists is I try to kind of put everything into categories. So for instance, you know, any type of survival list is going to be like shelter, heat, water, food, that kind of thing. And then in each one of those categories, I put all of my line items. So that's actually how we're going to kind of go through today's video. Now, the next thing you're going to want to do once you created your checklist is you're going to want to come up with some type of container or bag to put all of your gear in. So For today's video, I'm just using this Rubbermaid tote. This is like a really heavy duty tote. And you'll notice as this video unfolds that I'm going to be going through a lot of gear, and not all of the gear in today's video is going to fit in this tote. But this tote, I'm really just putting the things that are specific to a winter weather survival situation or even a blackout situation. So when the power goes out, this kit can easily transition into like a blackout kit. So I'm putting my oil lamps in there. I'm putting like family headlamps, that kind of thing inside this kit. All right, so once you have your checklist and you have your container to put all your stuff in, the next thing that I put on my checklist, especially considering where we live, we're in a colder climate. So if the power goes out, especially in the wintertime, the thing that we're going to be focused on is staying warm. So that basically hits the category of heat. So when it comes to keeping everything warm, for me and my family, we have to make sure that we have enough wood to burn fires in our wood stove. So I always make sure that I have plenty of wood on hand. And one last thing before I forget, as it pertains to heat, make sure that you have plenty of matches and lighters and even fire tinder to start those fires in your wood stove. I always buy these UCO matches. I buy them in bulk, and these are great to not only start the fires in your wood stove, but also to light the wicks in your oil lamps. Now, for those of you who might live in regions where it doesn't typically get really cold, and maybe you're not concerned with, when the power goes out, you guys, struggling with keeping warm. But I should remind you that I can't remember how long ago, it was like 2-3 years ago in Texas, they had those really drastic low temperatures, and nobody was prepared for it. I mean, they just thought we're in this kind of warm region. We don't need to worry about, extreme colds, but yet they experienced these really extreme cold temperatures, and they just weren't prepared. And those people there had to resort to just going into their cars and keeping their cars running so that the heater in their cars would run, because they didn't have wood stoves in their house. So just because you live in an area that, you might not have to be worried about snow and extreme cold conditions, doesn't mean you might end up in a situation where you're going to, need to stay warm to stay alive. So for those of you who are in those areas, maybe you don't have a wood stove or a fireplace to keep your house warm when the power goes out and it gets cold, you're definitely going to need to consider other alternatives to heat, like the buddy heater. So this heater right here is a really good alternative to heat. Now, it's not going to heat up a very big area. So what you would want to do with a heater like this is choose probably the smallest room in your house and then kick this thing on. And then, you can stay warm that way. A little heater like this will probably heat up like an 10 by 10 foot room, maybe a little bit bigger, but these are really good, and they're actually safe to heat and use inside. So a lot of these actually have switches, like carbon monoxide switches, that will turn off if it gets if the oxygen in the room actually starts getting depleted. So not carbon monoxide, I think I misspoke there. It's actually if there's too little oxygen in the room, because I think that's what these have a tendency to do, is take up and absorb the oxygen. So you do have to be careful with these. I mean, they're not 100% safe to use in a room. So I wouldn't, seal off the room with like duct tape or anything and then run one of these. However, they are supposed to turn off if the oxygen gets depleted. So this is a great alternative to heat if you don't have a wood stove. Now, the next thing you're going to want to consider if you don't have a wood stove is making sure that you guys have plenty of warm blankets and sleeping bags. So this sleeping bag here is actually by Browning, and it's a -20-degree sleeping bag. So if it gets really cold, I can bust this out and get in here, and it's going to keep me warm through pretty much any type of situation. Now, if there's a lot of people in your family and maybe you're on a budget, you can invest in the wool blankets. Wool blankets are great. They're going to keep you warm, and you can wrap yourself in those in like a special way so that they will, basically keep you warm, almost like a sleeping bag. Now, this sleeping bag, it actually is a pretty budget-friendly sleeping bag for a Sub-Zero sleeping bag. It goes on sale at Midway USA all the time, and you can a lot of times find this sleeping bag for like 75% off. So I was actually picked up this sleeping bag for $50, and it normally retails at like $200, something like that. So really good deal, and I'll make sure to leave links in the description for all of this stuff. All right, the next thing you're going to want to consider during any type of winter weather power outage are flashlights or lights. So get some flashlights. I just got kind of some random flashlights here. I got some Woobin lights. This is a Duracell light. And then this is like a light that I picked up at Costco. So all budget friendly flashlights here. And, the reason why I kind of tend to go with the budget friendly ones, I do have some premium flashlights like Streamlight, but I like these because I can buy a lot of them and hand them out to everybody in my family. So if you're putting together, a winter weather survival kit, you don't necessarily have to spend, $100, $200 on a flashlight. You can get those packs of flashlights, for whatever, and then that way everybody in your family has one. The other thing that I picked up while I was actually out at Walmart was this 3-pack of headlamps. And headlamps are great, especially if you're going to be doing things like trying to cook dinner and things. You can put one of these on, and it just, it's a way that you can keep light in front of you and still do all the tasks that you need to do. But I got this 3-pack because my kids actually don't have very good headlamps. They have some kind of chintzy ones. So I saw this deal. It was like $25 or something like that for these 3. So these are going to be going to my kids, but headlamps are a great source of light. The other thing that I came across are these oil lamps, and these are great. I found these on Amazon. I got 2 of these, so they're like $15 a piece, really cheap. But you just fill them up with oil, and they will burn for. I'm not quite sure what the burn time is like on a full can of oil, but I'm assuming it's pretty long. I eventually I'm going to have to do a test and see how long, but these come with the wicks and everything. So all you got to do is just add the oil, and you got yourself a nice little lantern here. So I just like these things. Plus, the look of traditional fire kind of lamp is it's really cool. So I got those. All right, the next thing you're going to want to consider is food and water. So definitely when it comes to food, especially for emergency situations like this, I would say focus on non-perishable food. So if you can afford the freeze-dried stuff, get some freeze-dried food, but canned food and MREs work just as good too. So I got some MREs here. These were the low sodium kind, so these were really cheap. I think I got a case for like $50, but these are good. That way, if the power's out and you can't refrigerate your food, or you don't want to be opening up your refrigerator a lot, you can just use this food, and definitely you can stay alive on MREs and shelf stable food. The other thing you'll want to consider is having enough water. So you'll notice that was one of the things I actually went and got while I was at Walmart was water, because realized I was running really low on our bottled water. Now, the bottled water, that's not like our primary water source. We're actually on a well. So if the power does go out, we go on a generator, and the generator does run our well. But if that power outage lasts, a long time, or I wasn't able to get enough gas and our generator ran out, we would be relying on our plan B water situation, which is our creek. So in that case, you're looking at water filtration. So make sure that you have enough water on hand, especially for those of you who are on the grid. And if there's a major power failure and the water systems aren't working, you're not able to get water, make sure that you have enough water on hand. I would say personally, you should have at least 2 weeks of water on hand. I can't really tell you what the math is per person, how much water you need, but it's roughly 2 gallons of water per person per day. So whatever that math is for you, I'd say try to put that water storage as part of your plan. Now, like I said, water filtration. So if we did end up in a situation where we were relying on our creek for water, we could fill this gravity-fed water filtration system. It goes in our kitchen, and I think this is 2 gallons of water. Yeah, it's at least 2 gallons of water. So, but this is a great way to filter your water, especially from inside of your house. Now, when it comes to eating and drinking your food, it's always a good idea to have disposable plates, cups, and even cutlery. So that was one of the things I picked up when I was out at Walmart, was more disposable cutlery. Because if you're in any type of grid down situation where water becomes a scarcity, you don't want to be wasting that water doing dishes. So having the ability to just dispose of your plates and cups once you're done eating is just going to make your life a lot easier under that situation. Okay, next category, and this is a big one: fuel and energy. So this encapsulates a lot of things such as lamp oil, gasoline, diesel, batteries, propane. I mean, I could go on and on. So I guess we'll just start with probably the most important thing. The one thing that I highly recommend that you guys have is a good solar generator. So this is just a basic 1400 watt power station. It's made by a company called Pecron. It was one of the first solar generators that was ever sent out to me. And this is the one I use for powering pretty much all of my basic necessities. I take this camping because it's the lightest one, and this will power all my flashlights, keep my radios charged, and everything like that. So if you get like a 200 watt pair of solar panels for a machine like this, you could essentially sustain yourself for an extended period of time. So I definitely highly recommend that. Probably one of the first things that you look at when it comes to energy is getting yourself a good portable power supply station. Now, if you are going to be running any type of oil lamps like this, make sure that you stock up on this lamp oil. This is actually kind of hard to find. When I was at Walmart, there were only 2 bottles of this stuff left. So I grabbed the last 2, and they don't usually keep it in stock because it's just not something that's very popular. I was talking to the lady that worked there, and she didn't even know where it was when I was trying to find it. So I was glad that I found it. I got the last 2 bottles of lamp oil. But if you are going to be running any type of lanterns that run off this stuff, just make sure you stock up on lamp oil. Now, the next thing you're going to want to make sure that you have a healthy supply of are batteries. So make sure that all of your electrical devices like flashlights and radios and headlamps, you have all of the necessary batteries for all of those different devices. So I got this little battery buddy organizer here. It just keeps all my batteries nice and organized. And that way I can always, I can look at this and see what batteries I need more of and what batteries I'm doing okay on. So definitely recommend having enough batteries on hand and just keeping them nice and organized like this. All right, next thing we're going to be talking about is propane. So I actually have quite a few things that run off propane. And one of the main things that I use all the time is our camp stove. So if we're ever in a situation where the power went out for an extended period of time and I ran out of fuel to keep my generators going, which keep my house powered up, we would be in a bad situation and we would be relying on cooking all of our food with propane. So I keep a lot of these on hand, and these essentially run my camp stove. They can also run my lanterns as well. So always a good idea to have plenty of propane on hand. Now, the last thing you want to consider in the fuel category is having a good supply of gasoline on hand or diesel. So for us, I always make sure to keep at least 20 gallons of gas on hand. That way, if we need to get in our vehicles and leave and the gas stations have become totally inaccessible, I have enough gas to get us to wherever we need to go. I also keep a lot of diesel on hand, And the diesel runs actually a heater that I have that heats up my garage, and it also runs our tractor, which is what I use to plow all of our snow. So I always make sure to keep enough gasoline and diesel on hand. Now, the next item that I would suggest that you strongly consider for your winter emergency plan is a generator. So for those of you who are single, maybe you don't have a lot of power needs, just get yourself a basic 1400 watt power supply. A unit like this is going to, basically keep your cell phone recharged for at least a week, your flashlights, radios, and things like that. Now, if you're a larger family and you want to try to keep your whole house going for an extended period of time when the power goes out, then you'll definitely want to consider looking at just a gas powered generator. Now, if you have the budget, then get yourself, an EcoFlow, nice solar generator. But for me and my family, we just use gas generators. So our generator is dual fuel, so it runs off both propane and gasoline. But in the wintertime, it actually works better off gasoline. It just doesn't get enough kick from the propane. So we use gasoline to power our generators during the wintertime. The second aspect to having a generator is you're just going to want to make sure that you maintain those generators. So make sure that you have enough oil for those generators, and like the basics of maintaining and repairing a generator, such as pulling the air filter out, cleaning the air filter, and kind of getting it started, pouring gasoline into the carburetor. If it's sat a long time and it's not turning over, we actually have to do that every winter with our generator because we just don't use it during the summer. So when the power goes out, I'm always having to pull the filter off our generator and pouring a little bit of gas straight into the valve there. So learning basic, repair techniques like that and just keeping those generators maintained is always a good idea. All right, now when it comes to cooking, there are a lot of different options out there, but I just go with the standard, camp cook stove like this. It's from Coleman. These have been around forever, but I can cook 2 things on this stove and run them off my small propane tanks or even my bigger propane tank. But definitely a good idea to put together some type of cook kit, that consists of your stove, fuel, paper towels, paper plates, and that kind of thing, spatulas, but everything that you would need to do to cook your food during a power outage. It's just going to make your life a lot easier having a really good cook kit. All right, next on the list is we have communication. So this is really important. So a few things that I'm going to definitely recommend. Have yourself some type of scanner. So this is a Baofeng UV5R. I've programmed this to basically just listen to. So it's locked. I can't transmit on this, mainly because I don't have a ham license. So legally, I'm not allowed to transmit on this radio. But this radio is strictly for scanning purposes. So I have all of my local emergency frequencies programmed into this radio, and I can just scan those frequencies and keep tabs on everything that's going on around me. So for instance, if things are really bad outside and my family and I want to leave and I need to just kind of get a feel for what's going on around me, I can turn this thing on and scan the local emergency frequencies and see, if the freeways are clogged or if there's disaster emergencies going on. So having a good scanner, I would say, is a definite must, especially during any type of winter emergency situation. Now, the next thing I would definitely recommend when it comes to communication is just having some good two-way radio. So if the situation is so severe that the cell phone towers go down, you're going to want to have an alternative way to communicate with your family. So for instance, if my family's in the house and I'm, way on the other end of the property snow plowing, we can still keep in contact with each other even if the cell phone towers are down. So make sure to have some good two-way radios on hand during winter emergencies. And the last part of communication is just making sure that you have a good AM, FM shortwave radio on hand. So this is an emergency radio by Sea Crane, probably one of the best shortwave radios that you can buy. It's got the little hand crank on here, so you could essentially keep this radio powered indefinitely. And it even has a little solar panel on the back here that flips up. Not sure how much energy you could get with that solar panel, but it is there. But this is a great radio. You know, I can keep tabs on things that are going on around me just from the radio stations. And it even has a little flashlight on the side. So definitely make sure to have yourself a good emergency radio. All right, now when it comes to tools, basically a couple tools that you're going to need more than anything when the winter weather strikes, and that is a snow shovel. Now, this is just a small foldable snow shovel. I actually keep this on my ATV, and I keep one in my truck and one in my wife's car. But this is good, you know, if it's really snowing and you just need a shovel to kind of dig you out if you get stuck in the snow. So make sure to always keep one of these shovels in your vehicle with you at all times. The other thing, and I know this is kind of pertains to vehicles, but you definitely want to have them on hand either way. But this is just a snow brush and a scraper for your windshield. So pretty much every morning for the last month, we've been using this tool right here. So just brushing off the snow from the windshield and scraping the ice. The other thing you're going to want to have is a good snow shovel, just for, you know, shoveling your walkways and keeping the snow away from your house. And when it comes to snow and ice removal, especially, you're going to want to make sure that you have plenty of ice melt on hand. So this is one of the things that I went and stocked back up on at Walmart while I was out. I realized I didn't have any on hand. So I always make sure to have a lot of ice melt on hand just for our walkways and our driveway. Our driveway's kind of, we've got some steep spots, and I've taken some mean headers in the wintertime. It's no fun. So make sure, you know, especially if the temperatures get really low and you end up with a lot of ice around you, that you have the ability to melt that ice, because it is no fun to slip on ice. You can get really hurt. So definitely a good thing to be stocked up on. All right, and the last part of snow removal, and this really just applies for those of us who live in the northern climates and we deal with a lot of snow. Just make sure that you have a really good snow plow of some sort and like a snow blower. So the first thing we got when we moved up here was a snow blower, and I was doing, you know, a lot of space with just that snow blower, and I realized pretty quickly that that was just not going to be a viable, you know, snow removal tool. So I eventually, a few years later, upgraded to a John Deere tractor, and now we use our John Deere tractor to pretty much remove all of our snow. But if you do have those type of machines to remove your snow, you're just going to want to make sure, again, that you're maintaining those machines. You know, the basics of like replacing hydraulic lines, replacing the hydraulic fluid and the oil and all that kind of thing. So make sure to have yourself a really good means of removing the snow. All right, so the next category on our checklist is disposal. So right here we have human disposal. It's not a subject that we often talk about on these preparedness channels just because it's not a very pretty one. But if you guys want to look into a basic, cheap, affordable way of personal disposal, they have these buckets. And this is one of the things I picked up while I was at Walmart, but my family and I, we use these forever, but they're great, especially if you're tent camping. But if you're ever in a situation where the sanitation system goes down, you're going to need a way to dispose of your waste, because if you're not properly disposing of it, you could end up in a really bad situation quickly. Probably one of the worst things that comes from improper human waste disposal is dysentery. And for those of you who know anything about dysentery, it's a horrible thing to experience. So you want to make sure that you are prepared to dispose of your waste if you ever find yourself in a situation where the sanitation department has failed. So this is a great way, but it's basically just a 5-gallon bucket, and you can buy these little toilet seats that snap on right over the top like that. And what comes with them are these toilet waste bags. And you basically, it's just like a liner. You put it inside of the 5-gallon bucket, and you do your business. And there's actually a chemical in here that deteriorates the waste. So you basically, once you're done, you tie them up and you can throw these in the trash, and the chemical process that's in here will actually neutralize the waste. So this little combination right here is a really good thing to have in your emergency plan when it comes to disposing of waste. The next thing you're going to want to have when it comes to disposal is just plenty of trash bags, just for disposing of your trash and keeping, the flies away, things like that. But just having the means of disposing of your waste properly is just going to make the situation for you and everyone around you a lot better. And the next thing on our checklist is just first aid. So this kind of goes without saying, just make sure that you have a good basic first aid kit in your winter weather survival kit. So not really too much I can say about this, other than I actually like just buying these ones. These are the Johnson & Johnson all-purpose first aid kits. You can buy these at Walmart, Target, pretty much anywhere they sell these, but they're great. They got all the different kinds of Band-Aids, Neosporin, Tylenol, Benadryl, all that kind of stuff. So great little kit, and it's extremely affordable. So just make sure that all of your first aid needs are met inside of your preparedness kit. And last but not least, we have entertainment. So keeping yourself entertained, your mind occupied when you're in an emergency situation is probably the most overlooked thing when it comes to preparedness. So for those of you who know anything about a survival situation, you'll know that the one thing that takes more people out is just their psychological state. So having the means to kind of keep your mind occupied, keep your spirits up, keep the morale up is just huge when it comes to an emergency situation. So my family and I, we always make sure that we have plenty of board games and DVDs and magazines, even a deck of cards in the house to keep ourselves entertained. But definitely important, especially when the power goes out and you just don't have the internet to keep yourself entertained. You're going to need to rely on the old school way of entertainment. So make sure that you guys have plenty of board games and reading material on hand. All right, you guys, well, that's going to do it for me today. I hope you enjoyed the video. Let me know in the comment section if you have any questions for me, or if I forgot anything, make sure to let me know. Also, if you are interested in any of the gear that you saw in today's video, I'll make sure to leave links in the description for all of it. So if you haven't done so already, please make sure to hit that thumbs up button and subscribe to my channel. And if you want to see more videos like this in the future, go ahead and hit that notification bell. So with that said, until the next time, stay prepared.